All right, thank you everyone for your patience. Once again, my name is Jeremy Newman. I'm a Client Success Manager over here at Relationship Science. And today I'll be walking you through RelSci Pro, the best way to use it, answer any questions you may have. So during the webinar, if there's any technical difficulties or if you have any questions, feel free to let me know within the question module. Feel free to ask questions throughout the demo, even ones kind of unrelated, best use cases, things of that nature. So today I'll go over a brief introduction about RelSci and then dive into some tools and good tips for using the platform. So Relationship Science is a business development tool. It's all about leveraging your connections to get in front of individuals or organizations that you're interested in. We're about the art of the warm introduction, kind of moving away from that cold intro, cold emails, and cold calls. RelSci is comprised of two main components. So when you think of us first as a database of over 6 million influential individuals. This includes board members, key executives, high net worth individuals. In addition, we have over 2 million of their affiliated organizations profiled as well. So this includes both private and public organizations. What differentiates us from LinkedIn or other services is we only use publicly verifiable information. So we have a team of over 300 researchers consistently and constantly gathering this data. We have data vendors kind of feeding us information about these organizations as well as individuals. So things come from press releases, public filings, team pages, board pages. Anything we can confirm and verify will push and collate into a profile, into a dossier for you to view. So that's one part of the platform. And a lot of people get a lot of value out of RelSci just through that. However, what most people like RelSci for, and what most of our clients use us for, is that mapping technology. So this is what lets you privately map your contacts, your relationships to RelSci. We compare them against our universe and indicate who you have access to. In addition, of the 6 million people we have profiled, we actually have algorithms on the back end that take a look at the commonalities of the information. So do they sit on the same board? Nonprofit, for-profit, how large is that board? How small? How long have they sat on that board together for? Is it current or prior? We do that for hundreds of different factors. Then output a relationship likelihood of either strong, which is red, average, which is orange, or weak, which is yellow. So that's kind of RelSci in a very small nutshell. A few key things that always pop up. Number one is we're not social media. So anything you do in the platform, if you pull up Bill Gates' profile, if you pull up Neil Goldman, our founder's profile, they will not be notified. They're totally separate. Number two, currently we don't have any contact information in the platform. However, that is something that's on our roadmap and we may be implementing down the road. Number three, as I mentioned earlier, we have no user-generated information, so no LinkedIn, things of that nature. All right, awesome. So when you first log into RelSci, and if you have any difficulty logging in, you can always shoot our client support team an email. There's a contact button right at the top here. But when you first log in, probably the most important thing to do, and I'm actually in one of my colleagues' accounts right now, is to click on My Relationships or click your name at the top right and click Relationship Management. And this is all about loading in your contacts, which kind of comes with their own questions. But to load them in, get to the Relationship Management page and click Add More Relationships. And so this will bring you to this page where you can see all the various ways you can load in your contacts, depending on where you store them. So you can click Outlook, you can click LinkedIn, Gmail, and it will give you instructions on how to export your contacts out of a source and then import them into RelSci. A few questions always arise with this. Number one is, what are you doing with my contact information? Are you using it? Are you selling it? The simple answer is, we are not selling your information. We're not using any information you upload to further the database. Really what we're doing is we're just cross-referencing what you upload to our universe of people, seeing which one matches, indicating it matches, and then dumping the data. That's what we do. Another question arises, who else can see my information? No one, only you, only the people logging into your account. So you. Then the other big one is, well, I have Excel file, or I'm having trouble uploading. Seems to be generating some sort of error. what's the best way to go about uploading information, any rules of thumbs to use. So in terms of uploading stuff, if you're getting an error right away, most likely that's because the file is formatted incorrectly. If you're getting an error after it's uploaded, and as you can see here, we've actually made a note about it, we have experienced some technical difficulties, just give our client support team a call and we'll help you with it. But generally, whenever you export out your contacts or put together a list of contacts, if you will, the file should look very similar to this. So I pulled up an Excel spreadsheet here. Hopefully all of you can see that easily enough. There's multiple columns that you can include to improve the match rate. And here I just have an example of first name, Jeremy Newman, last name, email address, company, position. All you need for an automatic match in RelSci is first name, last name, and one of these two, either company or email address. For email address, we're just taking a look at the domain. So if I uploaded it, it would take a look at RelSci.com, realize that's relationshipscience.com, and that would be my company. Every other piece of information here is not required for an automatic match, but it does improve the match rate. So usually I recommend people include position when they're uploading, because that's a great way to narrow down, especially if you have a John Smith or something similar. Then save it as a CSV file, not Excel. CSV gets rid of all the formatting, and then upload it here. And we'll go through the matching process and show you which one was an automatic match and triangulated it correctly. The next big question that comes up is, I have a list of individuals and their email, but it's personal. I don't have company information. Can I still match them? The answer is yes, and there's two ways to do it. One, you can still upload that file, and I still suggest people actually go here after they upload any file. There's the Yours tab, which shows you your relationships that matched automatically. And there's Potential. Potential will actually show you individuals who RelSci thinks may have a match in the system, but wasn't 100% sure. So if you think your match rate's a little low, or if you're kind of not happy with the number of relationships you have, pop in here first and take a look and say, oh, maybe because I had a lot of personal emails for these individuals, I have a great relationship with them, I just don't, I didn't bother to include their company. So you can come in here and kind of select which one corresponds to the correct individual. It's a great way to up your relationship capital count. And these will always stay here until you go through them. Alright, so that takes care of relationships. That's a big part of the system. The next thing I'll go over is alerts. So RelSci on the home page, we push you alerts from Washington Post, New York Times, many more different sources. On a daily email, which you can change, we have a mobile app, iPhone, Android, and iPad, very popular. I highly suggest that as well. Or if you're just in the system. What makes our alerts so valuable is you can pull up the full article right here. See who's mentioned in the article, kind of scroll on down. So we don't just give you a preview of the article, we actually show you the full body. In addition, we have bots sitting on team pages, board pages, pretty much any information on the profiles we have. And if anything changes, we push you that as a proprietary data alert. So here you can see Brian here, Barry Salzman is now serving as Vice Chairman of Board of Directors over at Vivex Biomedical as of August 2017. But a lot of people don't realize, or the question is, I have Google Alerts, I have an RSS feed, why should I use this? We're a little more nuanced, a little more specific than Google Alerts and other similar services. If you type in John Smith, they might be doing a keyword search and bring you back a bunch of articles that are not relevant to you. We make sure we're pushing you the right articles. On top of that, if you're getting inundated with articles, the alerts aren't as valuable as they were before, pop into RelSci and actually click News Search. This is what lets you create searches without having to have relationships or filter your own. If I click Advanced Search here, I can actually type in my relationships right here. And if I'm really only interested in board and executive changes, pop into topic, type board and executive moves, or better yet, I know with some nonprofit folks out there, if you're just getting started up, donations and philanthropy, investments, really narrow down what you want. And then in terms of customization, click Alert Settings. You can change the number of emails you're getting, whether or not you get a source in your email, or if it's just on the mobile app. Lots of ways to play around with it. Alright, so that's alerts. That's one of my favorite features personally. In terms of profiles, I'll pull up a couple examples here. So, first thing people think of is pulling up an individual. So if I pull up John Gray, who's over at Blackstone. Type in the name, do not hit enter. If you hit enter here, it'll kind of pull up all John Grays. I just suggest selecting the correct John Gray from the drop-down. Select that and it'll pull up the dossier profile we have on him. Now, this is really where RelSci shines. This is all the information we have on John. 360 alerts specifically about John. If you don't have a relationship with John but still want news on him, maybe he's a target, a prospect, or you're just following him for the news. He's an interesting thought leader. You can click follow here. It'll turn yellow. That'll be included as part of your news and alerts. And then what I mentioned earlier is if you, let's say, meet someone, get their business card, and you don't want to upload a file to RelSci again just for one person to sync them as a relationship, pop into RelSci, type their name in, and click add relationship or remove. This module is the power of RelSci. This is why people like us. This is why firms use us. It's going to take a look at your relationships. So in this case, over 220, in Tara's, my colleague's case. And say, okay, from those, what's the quickest way to get in front of John? First, it's going to see if you have a direct connection. Second, it's going to take a look and see if there's any indirect connections. So, all right, Tara here has indicated she has access to Craig Oxman. If I hover over that, it's not going to say why. But Craig, we believe, has access to John Gray, and this is where the RelSci data comes into play. Hover over that orange line. It looks like they both were involved in a transaction together, specifically Credit Suisse invested in the Blackstone Group. And they both were involved in the transaction, both kind of influential over at both organizations. And then further down, there's two hop paths, not as direct, but Henry Kravis knows Stephen. Hover over that line, you'll see all the commonalities pop up. A question that arises a lot, actually, even from my enterprise clients is, what is common items? What's the difference between connections and this box down here? So connections are things that directly affect the score, the strength, this relationship likelihood. They're both on the board of directors over at the Partnership for New York City. They both were involved or had some overlap at Youth Incorporated. They're both members of the Council on Foreign Relations. However, common items will be they both donated to the same organization, or they both attended the same school. They both are interested in sailing, for instance. Those are things that aren't directly connecting them, but show you that they might have more in common or some more overlap than you may think. Alright, so scrolling down, relationship summary. I will stress this a lot. I think this is an underutilized aspect of RelSci. It's a kind of a reverse way of using us. If you have a colleague that you would love to utilize as a kind of introduction point, or someone's mentioned, if you're a nonprofit, one of your board members says, I'm more than happy to give an introduction, but you just can't get their contacts, or they're so busy they don't have time for that. Pop into RelSci, pull up their profile, and this is what I like to consider their virtual Rolodex. So we believe, RelSci believes, John Gray has access to over 4,100 individuals in RelSci, in our universe of 6 million. So we scroll down, we can actually expand this and see a full list of all those individuals. And kind of the general commonalities on the right here. If we hover over the strong, the specifics. So this is a great way to be a little more strategic in your ask. If you're shooting an email out for an introduction. From a board member, from a colleague, maybe from a family member. See who they might know in a certain industry. Or see if they even, would know someone at that organization. You can filter this even down further, see if there's a connections through specific organizations, or better yet, see if anyone's attended your school, your alma mater. That's another connection point there. Great ways to use this specific tool. Scrolling down, we capture family information, education information, memberships, career. Any blue link is, of course, clickable, and I can open up an organizations page here. Just going on down, we capture board information, corporate, government, nonprofit. We have transactional information. We have donations, political and nonprofit. Awards and honors, events they've spoken at. Pretty much anything we can publicly confirm, we will push to the profile for you to view. And the database is consistently being updated and expanding. So, if you pop back into RelSci, a month down the road, 2 months down the road, there might be, 500,000 new entities added, organizations and people. Alright, so the next thing I'll pop up is just an organization as an example. So, same thing, I'll type in the organization. I'll do Wedbush Securities. For instance, type that in, pull it up. Very similar layout to a person's profile. You can follow them for news as well. You can add them as a relationship, since they're not an individual. Articles specifically about Wedbush, some basic information on the left. Their website, if there's any filings, we'll actually include it on the left. General paths to senior individuals over at Wedbush. So it looks like there's some to Stephen Trimble here, Stephen Beiser, Peter Winter. And something I'd like to point out for you folks interested in getting in front of organizations is we'll actually classify the individual's connection to the organization. So obviously if Stephen Trimble right now is currently Managing Director and Head of Execution for Wedbush Futures, currently involved. So that's a strong connection to Wedbush. But if he was prior, let's say he left the company a year ago, this might change to average. So it's still a possible connection point. You just have to kind of realize that and maybe reach out and ask if they still have connections with their old colleagues. Scrolling down, key personnel, board of directors, all of this is expandable. So if you're not getting the information, all of it that you want, click See All. Transaction summary, advisors, transaction clients, etc. And then corporate hierarchy as well. Sometimes you might come to a profile that's not very robust and you're curious why. Sometimes, especially for private equity and hedge funds, we kind of separate them out into different entities depending on their filings. So click the holding company or the top entity in the corporate hierarchy, and it'll probably have a lot of the information you're looking for. Alright, so the next thing I'll pull up is, let's say you want a lot of detail specifically about Wedbush or anything. More than these paths. Pathfinder's where you want to go. So click Pathfinder here. And this is the bread and butter of RelSci, the most popular tool for all of our pro clients, which all of you are, our enterprise clients, nonprofit, investment banks, it doesn't matter who. This lets you path to any entity in RelSci. So I can type in, for instance, American Express, and select the organization, not just a person, the organization, and click Show Paths. And so this will pull up all of the potential paths we have, in this case Tara has, to American Express. You can kind of take a look in detail. Better yet, if there's a specific position you want to get to at American Express or any organization, click Filter here at the top, right here. And you can select, for instance, if you don't want to get in front of board members, get rid of those, and maybe just current C-suite execs. Or if you want to get in front of a controller, a treasurer, a CFO, COO, you can type their position in here and select it from the drop-down. Very useful. You can filter this as well. So filter out, remove certain connection types. If you don't care about transactional, get rid of it. If you want to remove paths exclusively through a competitor of yours, you can do that as well. Or look for people who attended your alma mater, things of that nature. But something I want to stress, and a lot of people kind of can't, they box themselves in a way, is you don't have to just path from your relationships to American Express or to any target. You can path from any entity in RelSci to any entity. So if I wanted to see, okay, let's say I had a really strong relationship with John Gray, who we had previously pulled up. I can type in John Gray. use his public profile and see if there's any connections to American Express's public profile. This is really useful to leverage if you have a happy client, a colleague, a top donor, whoever it may be. See if there's any public relations if you don't have access to their contacts. And we have clients even still that have their board members' contacts loaded in and still use their board members' public profiles, because you never know if they're forgetting about a nonprofit board they sit on, or if they're forgetting about a membership they're a part of, and they forget that the other individual is also on that board or part of that membership. And so you can see this is all public data. So if I hover between John Gray and Stephen, that's public data. And then from Stephen to Kenneth, that's public data as well. So it's a great way to kind of take a look at that. You can do it between two organizations, between two people. It's quite interesting. So that's Pathfinder. That's one of my more popular tools for me personally. The next big tool I'll go over, and I'll touch upon a few other tools, but I really want to cover Power Search and go over very briefly due diligence. So clicking Power Search. So this is the querying tool of RelSci, the advanced search tool of our platform. If you want to search by criteria, this is where you do it. You can search for either people or organizations. Just click the tab for either one. And for instance, you can really search by any criteria we capture. And something I'd like to mention is we have more criteria than most people think. So obviously you can expand education, investments, clients they have, but something a lot of people don't realize is we have membership data. We have personal data. So what are their interests, their hometown, political party, age. One thing I will mention is if you do put in age, we do have some people with null values, for instance. So if we don't have an age for them, it'll be null. So even if I put in 1 here, 1 to 80, anyone who didn't have an age defined in that field would not appear in the results. So it can limit you in some ways, but I just want to make you all aware that that's definitely an option for you. Now, an example search is, let's say I'm a nonprofit, and I'm looking for people based around New York City that maybe attended one of my board members' schools and is interested in donating to the arts. So I can come up to location, type in New York City, for instance, select it from the drop-down. And then for career and board, we're really not too concerned about what they're involved with there. But in terms of education, let's say my board member attended Harvard. So we'll select Harvard University. And something I'll mention is if you're doing this and the search results aren't exactly what you want, try clicking off the checkboxes, because for instance, Harvard University will only look for people who attended Harvard University, not the law school, not the med school, not the business school. So check off include all related schools, and that will include every school under the university. Kind of scroll on down, and let's say we're looking for people who have donated to arts and culture services. And let's say who have donated more than $10,000 in the past. Click search. This will pull up everyone that meets that criteria in our database. So just in New York City alone, there's over 221 people that meet our results. You can take a look and see why they meet the results. Where do they work? What do they donate? When did they donate? What school they attended? You can sort this. So this is another question that arises, especially from pro users, is what is RelSci rank? There's a little question blurb here to help you with it, but it's really just the measure of influence someone has in RelSci. Are they part of a big organization? Do they have a very senior role there? How many roles have they worked at before? But you can also sort it by RelSci relationships, that virtual Rolodex we saw earlier, their role, their tenure, etc. But really where RelSci's power comes in, you can then instantly say, okay, my shortest path to these individuals, or better yet, do I directly have a relationship with any of these individuals? And then extended just shows you all the individuals you have potential access to. It gets rid of the individuals you don't have any paths to. So great tool in terms of narrowing down and looking to see what you're interested in. We have nonprofits using this, for-profits using this. There's some interesting ways to go about using this tool. But as I mentioned earlier, if you're getting some weird results, there's a lot of interesting ways to work around it. So for instance, we've had some clients that were specifically involved in food additive, looking for companies in food additive industry. And so they'd come up to or individuals in the food additive industry, they'd come up to the career board and then they type in food additives and there's nothing there. So what you can also do in that case is come down to business description and type in food additive. And it'll actually search through the business description of those organizations and pull up the relevant ones. Something similar as well is if there is a role that is very common in whatever industry you're targeting or in your industry and it's not predefined. This is very actually common, for instance, with Chief Legal Officer. It's not in RelSci, but if I select it as a keyword and then click search, it'll actually populate with results. So don't feel like you're constrained once again by our predefined titles or industries. There's ways to work around that. Alright, so the last thing I'll just quickly mention before entirely opening up to questions. Due diligence, if you want to quickly pull up a list of board members or executives or investors, this is the way to do it. So for instance, if you're interested in Amazon, and maybe especially with Whole Foods recently, you can put in Amazon and quickly pull up a list of their board members, executives, maybe the direct competitors, executives, and board members. So it's a great tool to pull up a lot of information quickly. So the last thing I'll just mention in terms of resources at your disposal, obviously you're aware of the webinars we host. We do have a training link at the top here, which will be updated with kind of the next webinar, when it's going to be. We have some recorded webinars on our YouTube channel. Also, if you ever wonder what the difference is between Pro and our Enterprise services, check out our YouTube channel or give us a call. There's a lot of videos on there that show different tools and different things you can do with Enterprise that you can't with Pro. In some cases, Pro is perfectly suited to you. In others, we've had a lot of Pro users go to Enterprise because it suited their needs better. The other thing is we have this handy how-to menu on the left. If you ever need help, kind of like how did Jeremy say to use 360 alerts again? How can I set up my custom alerts? Just click that and it will interactively walk you through the alerts features. So I'm more than happy to stay on for another 4 or 5 minutes. If you guys have any questions, feel free to write into that question interface, and I will go ahead and try my best to answer anything you have. If you don't have any questions, feel free to